welcome back to Joygasm, a video game and movie podcast. I'm Russ. He is Steve. And my goodness, the force is strong with us in episode 255 today, December 30th, 2021. We're going to be going into our nitty-gritty of the topic of the day. But before we do that, make sure you throw a thermal detonator at that subscribe button. Maybe force push that notification bell. That way you will not miss a single episode of Joygasm, which drops once a week, every week. We are pleased as punch to have Nick, a.k.a. Big Baby Moose, rejoin us for an encore of the show. And what a show it is. In fact, speaking of, I say we dive right into our topic of the day. So I thought it'd be good to start things off with how Galaxy's Edge itself debuted in 2019, which wasn't that far long ago. If you think about it, I mean, it was just 2 years ago. And what's interesting was that it first debuted, I want to say in Disneyland first in May. It was like May 31st or May 25th, somewhere around there of 2019. And then it debuted in Disney World in August. I think it was like August 29th of 2019. So very close to each other in terms of that release. And then COVID happened. And so really like you had kind of a burst of like diehard Star Wars fans that would go check out this new land at the Disney theme parks for like the first 6 months. And then all of a sudden we all just went into like the whole shutdown period. And Disney parks shut down for a while. I think it was like toward the end of 2020 that they started to kind of sort of open up again. But again, it just wasn't at the level as it once was. And so here we are in 2021 and there is a significant amount of folks who really have not had a chance to go check this place out. And so what I thought was super fun was that Nick told me about how he and his family had booked a trip to Disneyland and how they were going to be there for like a week or so. And what ended up happening was like right around that same time, my wife's parents ended up contacting us because they had some timeshare that they needed to burn. It was like the whole like use it or lose it type of scenario. And it happened to be in Florida. And so we ended up planning a trip over to Disney World. And so I thought that for this episode, it'd be a lot of fun to be able to go back and forth with Nick. I know Steve hadn't had a chance recently to go, but he's gonna maybe pop in a question or two.
Chime in when I can, Russ.
Indeed. But anyway, I thought, how cool would it be since Nick and his family was at Disneyland just a month ago, and then my family just returned from Disney World, we could kind of compare notes and see like what our experiences have been like. So I thought it'd be great to start off with talking about what was it like for you, Nick, to be able to return to Disneyland? I assume you had been to Disneyland before this trip. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Several times.
Okay. So I think that we had discussed like real briefly a little while back about like the last time that we had been. I know for myself, the last time I was at a Disney park was in 2003. What was it for you?
I want to say late 2001, early 2002.
Okay. So it's actually pretty close to the last time I was at Disneyland. So it had been around 18 to 20 years for you. Right around that time. So, I mean, it's a significant amount of time. What was it like for you just to step off the shuttle or whatever it was that got you to Disneyland and be able to kind of cross through the gates of the entrance and be back at one of the happiest places on earth?
You know, it was incredible, honestly, just because of how things have been really for the last couple of years here with COVID. There's been this, I don't know what you'd say, I guess just kind of like disconnect from people and from life in some ways, because of COVID and what it's done to the nation and with things being closed. And we had actually planned to do a trip there in 2020. And then COVID happened, it shut down. And so we threw it out the window. We're kind of like, okay, we'll get around to it sometime. Who knows when? And then, it was coming around. We're like, you know what? Let's just do this. Let's find a way. Let's make it happen. And so after things opened up in late 2020, we're like, let's go back. And it was quite the experience because it had been 20 years. The last time I was there was when I was in the Navy, and it was a bittersweet time going to the happiest place on earth because the towers had just fell and the Pentagon had just been hit. I was actually supposed to deploy, and I had broken my arm. And so I didn't deploy with my unit, and I was pretty upset about that. But a ton of places down in Southern California had been offering to service members, because they knew what we were going to be doing or already in the midst of doing, offered entrance into the parks for free. So this was like SeaWorld, Six Flags did it, Disneyland did it, and California Adventure had just opened up. So I was there right when it opened, and got to see what that was like. And it was interesting going back because a lot has changed there. Initially, it was kind of designed as this sort of like throwback to old theme parks and carnivals and things of that nature. It has taken on a lot different identity now, where it has a ton of Marvel integration. It has a lot of the Pixar stuff has been integrated into it as well. And it was interesting to go see some old rides that have now been reimagined.
Right.
Tower of Terror is now the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. The Incredicoaster, which was just a roller coaster before, is now the Incredicoaster, themed after The Incredibles. Fantastic roller coaster, very fun. But so going from that experience where you're going there, and I was going there, thankfully, for free at the time, and then coming back 20 years later after COVID, very different situation, but in some ways a similar feeling where there's been this sense of loss and this sense of, I don't know, just sort of almost a depressed state. And it was amazing. We came in on the shuttle. We stayed at the Disneyland Hotel, the original one, which was fantastic. Just had a great time. We flew in, and the first couple days we were there, we just stayed at the hotel and did it low key, played in the pool, had a good time. And then after we were there for 2 days, then we went into the park.
Oh man,
and
that's fantastic. That's the way to do it.
It was great. It was the perfect way. And so we walked over to the monorail, which I love the monorail.
Yes.
It's just an incredible thing to get on. It's silly, but it's just cool, right? Get on the monorail and you get dropped off in Tomorrowland, which prior to Batu being a thing was my favorite part of Disneyland.
Sure.
So I'm immediately getting led into my previous favorite place in the park.
Yeah.
And you walk out into Tomorrowland. We immediately hopped on the Buzz Lightyear ride and then hit Space Mountain and then just started making our way through the park. And it was cool because my kids had never been there. And this was their first time. They're 11 and 14. I know they'll remember it forever. And when we were building up to it, we were like, hey, this isn't like any park you've been to before.
Yeah.
This is Disneyland. And we don't have television at the house. We do streaming things. So they don't see a lot of commercials and stuff. So they didn't have the scope. They got there and they were like, jaw on the floor, like eyes this big around, about fall out of their head.
Sure.
And all of a sudden it hits them that like, this is something else. Like, this isn't like Wild Waves that we got up here off the I-5. It's a little tiny park or something like that, or even Silverwood over in Idaho. This is something a little different, a little bit bigger. And it was the coolest thing to just watch them experience that.
That's awesome. Yeah, we had a very similar situation in the sense that we took our 7-year-old daughter for the first time to Disney World. And she's been kind of sort of integrated into a little bit of like kind of like the Disney ecosystem with like Disney Plus and some of the movies that have come out. She's familiar with Pixar,
of course, yeah.
But I feel as though like her being 7 years old, like I don't know if I would want to take her any younger than that, because I feel like she's at kind of a mental developed state where like she'll actually remember the trip. Because I remember like when you and I first went to Disneyland
a long time ago,
we were super young. Like I barely remember any of that. But the second time we went, then I had a much better recollection of like what was going on, and we had fun stories and that sort of thing. But no, it was for us. So we didn't stay in a Disney hotel. I wish we could. It's so funny. We're already planning like the sequel trip.
Oh yeah.
So we're like, okay, next time we've got to stay at like a Disneyland or Disney World, whichever one we go to, like one of the Disney hotels, because I have never stayed at one, and I hear it's actually quite a delight to be able to stay at one of those places. So for us, it was interesting to be able to arrive at the park. We got a rental car, we drove, and it was I gotta say, like, there is something very special that occurs when you walk through the entrance gate.
I have to pause you there, Russ.
Yes, Steve.
One of the earliest parts that I remember as a little kid was prior to getting in the park. When you walked on the plane had a smiley face.
Oh,
Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
The plane, came up, parked, and I'm 5 years old or however I was. I'm like, that plane's got a smile on it. And like, opposed to the other planes are like all like just plain no faces, whatever. And to a kid, it's like, oh my gosh, you're like everyone looking at everything, as a cartoon and like
sure.
It's a stuffed animal, whatever, with smiles and stuff. And so the plane parks. I'm like, I want to ride on that plane.
Yeah.
Even though it's the normal like jet.
That, man, I totally forgot about that. So we flew Southwest and there wasn't any kind of smiley faces on there. It makes me wonder how they came up with that promotion. Like, did Disney have like a partnership with some of the airlines where like if they fly, say, into Anaheim, that they get some sort of like Mickey Mouse or cartoon styled smile? I totally remember that because it gave personality to the jet itself. And especially back then, you didn't have the types of user experiences that you're starting to see today, where like they're actually kind of sort of making an effort to make it not such a arduous, awful experience. And so back then it was like the one little like glint of like positivity that you would have. That's really funny. So going back to what I was saying,
right,
going through the entrance. So what's interesting is how they are very intentional with how they designed the park, where it's literally like you were leaving reality and you were entering into this fantasy land. And it's where like once you get inside, you can't, it's not like I can look over and I can see the end of the park property and go, oh, there's a Best Buy right there and there's the freeway and so on and so forth. They intentionally shroud all that stuff so that you are 360 degrees in their world. And I gotta say that like what's funny is that I too am in my 40s, and it doesn't matter how old you are. You walk through and you are instantly hit with like this nostalgia of being a kid and going through the park. And I think that's one of the exclusive, unique attributes that Disney has been able to perfect. And I found myself smiling and watching my daughter go through and having this rush of memories come back and that sort of thing. And again, like it's been like 18 years since the last time I was at any Disney park. And so it was definitely really, really cool just to see the branded Mickey Mouse ears plastered everywhere. And like you're walking down Main Street and you see just this iconic classic Americana that just has stood all these different decades. And not only that, but like during the being so close to Christmas time, they had decorated Main Street with all kinds of Christmas decorations and garland and that sort of thing. Nick, did they do that for you in Disneyland, or was it too soon since you went in November?
No, it was all Christmased out. As a matter of fact, I think I sent you a photo of the Christmas tree on Main Street. It was completely done up. The Haunted Mansion was actually set up to be the Nightmare Before Christmas inside. Nice. So going on the Haunted Mansion was a completely different experience for me from any other time I've gone. I've always kind of gone in spring or summer prior to this. Sure. So that was pretty awesome. Yeah, they had the whole thing just decked out. And you're exactly right. You walk into that place and it's like walking to another world, and it's all encompassing and you're surrounded and immersed by it. And I mean, it's the atmosphere, it's the environment, it's the people that work there. Fantastic. Yes. They're happy. They're glad to see you. And it's I was saying with the whole last 2 years being what they've been, it was just like, I felt like this weight just kind of like taken off of me. And it was like, it just felt good to be out.
Yes.
And to be somewhere that was happy and to be around other people who are happy. And yeah, it was really kind of, emotionally very cathartic and almost overwhelming in some ways, because it was just kind of like I had no idea how disconnected I've been.
Totally. And
I'm an introvert kind of by nature, but even I need human interaction, and it was really wonderful to walk through that place. And all of a sudden it was just like everybody's putting everything, all the extra stuff aside, all that. And granted, you still had to be masked in some cases and stuff, but at least in California, but it was only when you're indoors.
That was the same for us in Florida.
But you could just kind of forget about it all and just be there and feel good. And it was cool to see my kids feeling good and to feel good myself.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Did they have like a anti-social media? Like, you know, when you walk through the door, it's like, okay, you got to exit out your Facebook. You got to exit out your Twitter. All the social media is like, it's gone when you in. Like, okay, I felt great. It was amazing.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, that wouldn't be a terrible idea, honestly. I mean, we're so plugged in nowadays. It is hard to unplug. It is hard to disconnect from the sheer amount of information that we have access to at any given time, be it a personal information like Facebook or be it news or whatever else. And so to go in there, it was like you're so immersed in it and there's so much to see and do. You just don't find yourself, at least I didn't find myself looking at my phone really at all. So it was nice because, you're just sort of like unplugged.
Yeah, and I can say the same thing for myself as well, where you totally had signal. Like if you wanted to get on social media, you could. But I think that's one of the unique aspects about being at a Disney theme park is you don't have really any interest. I mean, if you take a picture, I could totally see if you're with friends or something and you just want to take a selfie and send it on social media, sure. But I do take note of what Nick said as something that also happened to me as well when I was at the park, where I was so much more into enjoying the moment of going from land to land. You know, they have Adventureland and Future and so on and so forth.
It's Tomorrowland.
Oh,
Get it right.
Sorry.
Come on.
I haven't even seen Tomorrowland, by the way.
Yeah, you have.
I have not seen Tomorrowland.
Space Mountain is a part of Tomorrowland, Steve.
It is? No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so is Star Tours. Star Tours still there. Awesome.
That's classified as Tomorrowland?
Yes, that's all. That is all part of Tomorrowland. Yeah. Indeed.
Learned something new.
There you go.
I did not know that.
You are overdue to visit.
I've been to Tomorrowland.
I can't ever get there because I'm stuck in today.
I'm stuck in Todayland.
Dang.
It's hard enough to get back to the past land.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Going back to what we were talking about just now, I do really love that quality about how, again, it's not something that's like, it hits you on the face, really. Like, it is interesting to think back, though, when I was at the park, as well as you, Nick, about how, like, I literally, the only time I took my phone out was to either take a picture or take video, and I would just put it back in my pocket, and we would go and check out the next attraction. Is that pretty much like what you did as well?
Yeah, no, that was exactly. As a matter of fact, we didn't post anything till after we got back.
Yeah. Same here.
Not a thing. I may have shot you a couple of text messages, I think, over the course while I was there because you'd forgotten that I was going. Yep. But that was about it. We pretty much were just like, we are here. We are just going to enjoy this experience, immerse ourselves completely, and enjoy a break from all the other things. And I can't tell you how good for the heart and soul that was.
Amen.
It was needed. And I can give you a juxtaposition because while we were down there, we also went to Universal Studios for a day. And it's a very different park. I don't want to disparage Universal. It was fun and it had some cool things. And what they've done with Hogsmeade is very much akin to what Disneyland as a whole is. Hogsmeade is very immersive. You feel like you're walking into Harry Potter. It's incredible.
How many weeks? Were you there for 1 week or 2 weeks?
We were there for a week. Okay. We were there for a week. But the people that are working there are not as happy. Yeah. Like you don't get the sense that they're joyous that you're there. They're just kind of there. It's just a job. And because the areas in the park at Universal are not as thematic and you can see out of that park because you're up on a hill, you don't have that sense of that insular seclusion that lets you kind of escape reality. And you're keenly aware of the fact that you're, near Burbank in LA. And it's just different. And I didn't find myself enjoying the park or feeling as rested and restful like as I did when I was at Disneyland. The crowd thing bothered me more. The hospitality things aren't quite as amenable to the public as far as like where you stand in line a lot of the time. And it was really hot when we were there. It was like 98 degrees.
Oh, wow.
It was crazy hot. Yeah, they were having record breaking heat. And so there's like next to no shade in a lot of these things. So you have to get hot and I don't know. It was just different. It didn't capture the imagination and it didn't draw you in the way Disneyland does. The Disney Imagineers have done such a good job at literally making you feel like you've been transported to a different place and a different time that, I've yet to go to another park that does that.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And that was actually a conversation that my wife and I had about as we were thinking about other types of parks, and Universal Studios did come up in terms of how it gets close to the Disney experience, but we feel as though it's kind of in between. Like if you think of Six Flags or Great America and Disneyland, it's like Universal's kind of in the middle. It's like, it's better. Yes. It's more immersive. It's better than like say a Great America or Six Flags, something like that. But it's not at the same level as Disney. And I think that has been something, like you said, has been meticulously cultivated by the folks over at Disney. I mean, just to give you like an idea, the cleanliness of the park. Yes. It's so funny because we would have inklings about like, you know, back when we went to Disney, like, oh, this is like a really clean place, right? There's no trash anywhere. And that's still very true to today. And, I mean, my goodness, I remember when we got back from the vacation, Leslie, who had bought brand new shoes for our daughter, held the bottoms of the soles up to me. And there was hardly any kind of like stains or dirt or whatever. They looked like 90% brand new. And that's after we had walked about 8 miles a day for an entire week. And the first day that we got there, it was raining. Like she was walking through puddles and her shoes were still clean. So that gives you an idea of like how clean it was. Another thing that I think is worth mentioning too, in terms of the cleanliness and the proactive nature of the staff at Disney was, I remember I went to a restroom and there was either a kid or it may have been a special needs adult who just had difficulty in the bathroom and had made, we'll just say, a mess. And literally like from the time I walked in to use the bathroom to when I walked out, 3 Disney employees had descended upon that bathroom and had totally cleaned up the mess that was made on the floor in there. And it was just like, wow, this is insane. When we went to Epcot, another example is I was going to the bathroom there in one of the stalls and I could, you know how you can tell like when another person in a stall close to you is done and they flush the toilet, they leave, everything else. After every person who would leave a stall, I would hear someone come in with a spray bottle and spray down the toilet and the walls and stuff. And I would hear rubbing going on and whatnot. I mean, like unparalleled hygiene at Disney parks. It was just like, and again, as someone who's passively like just witnessing this, you're just like, my goodness, like, why can't all places be like this? Anyway, I feel like it's worthy of note just because it's pretty rare that you come across that. Wouldn't you agree?
Can you work at my local gas station?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
No kidding. No, but I mean, that's the thing. There's an attention to detail that happens at these parks that it's kind of its own thing, right? Yeah. There aren't other places that go this kind of extra mile to create that kind of atmosphere where you can really just sort of, you know, immerse yourself in the experience and forget about all the peripheral things you normally be worrying about, like a dirty toilet. Yeah. You know, it does make a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. And then one other thing I think is worthy of note too, before we transition over to Galaxy's Edge, is how, you know, in your case, you went to Disneyland and Universal Studios, you had fun at both places. And then in my case, because we were at Disney World, they've done this thing where they've split up quite a few different parts of the park. So like you have Disney World, which is essentially like Magic Kingdom. And then you have Epcot Center. And then you have Animal Kingdom, which we did not do. But they also have Hollywood Studios. And we did go to that. That's where Galaxy's Edge was based out of. So it is a bit interesting in terms of how there are similarities where, like, you know, a lot of the same rides coexist on both coasts, but the location of where these places exist is a bit different because I want to say, was Galaxy's Edge in California Adventure for you, Nick, or was it in the Magic Kingdom?
No, it's in the Magic Kingdom.
Okay.
It's off by itself on the edges of Frontierland. You walk through a tunnel, half the tunnel's Frontierland, and then the sounds change and the lighting change, and you walk into Batuu, and it is the coolest thing experience if you're a Star Wars fan that you will ever have.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, and I think we could even talk about that too, about how what was really funny. I made a joke. I had taken selfies of myself, of my face, because we were trying to figure out where the Galaxy's Edge land existed. We knew it was in Hollywood Studios somewhere, and we're sort of like, where the heck is this place? And then I had a before and after shot. So then you see my after face. I look so ridiculous. I mean, it's the total like, died and gone to Star Wars heaven kind of thing. It was super, super funny. But yeah, I love how it was very similar for us too, Nick, in terms of they had this kind of tunnel that turns a corner, and you can tell how like you're leaving the previous part of the park and you're going into Galaxy's Edge. And I was floored when I saw you go around that corner and the vista it's like revealed to you almost like you're watching a Star Wars movie, and they give that like kind of setup shot that like reveals the world that you're going into. Let me tell you something. Okay, I'm just going to say this. That entire area, Galaxy's Edge, is camera ready. Like you could shoot a film there and it would look look legit. Like you would not be able to tell if you were watching a movie and it was like Hollywood based and everything else, or if you were in a theme park. Totally. Like it was insane how much care and attention was to the detail. Would you agree, Nick?
100%. You walk into this place and I mean, you literally feel like you just walked into like, it'd be like walking onto Tatooine. It has that kind of vibe, like walking into Mos Eisley. And it's so hard to put it into words because like you come out of this tunnel, like I said, and the lights change to a more Star Wars-y sci-fi style. And not only does it all look like something straight out of the film, you've got the sounds because it's a spaceport. So you're hearing like your quintessential Star Wars, space jets, and ship sounds as they fly in and out of this port. Every little thing, the little details with just like little subtle sounds, larger sounds like a spaceship, things of that nature, you are immediately there. I mean, immediately.
And if you don't mind me jumping in real quick, Nick, about the sound. So just to give you an idea, Steve.
Sure.
They have set up some kind of audio system within the park itself where how like if you have like say 7.1 surround sound in your like home theater or whatever, and it's like, oh, that sounds cool. You got surround sound. It's that on crack. So like they have these hidden speakers that are high. They're not like down low, like, oh, look, there's a speaker behind the tree. It's not like that at all. It's actually like they have them somehow high up. And so you will literally hear like a TIE fighter go and
from one side of it to the other.
From one side of not the park, but like of Galaxy's Edge to the other. And it causes everybody to look up because it sounds legit. Like it sounds like you just heard a TIE fighter buzz you. And they had like sounds for like what Nick was saying, like for X-Wing fighters and for various types of
Corellian freighters.
Yes.
And, all that.
Absolutely. And so it is super cool. And actually, just to add one other thing to the sound, the first day that we were there at Hollywood Studios, I was commenting earlier how it was raining. Well, it was overcast and cloudy, so we couldn't see the blue sky, but we could hear things. So let me tell you, as someone who has like a crazy visual imagination, when he would hear a ship buzz our heads and you look up and it's all cloudy and stuff, your mind fills in the details. You're just like, dude, that was right there. That was really there. Anyway, sorry, Nick. I kick it back to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is a interactive experience, an interactive podcast. Yes.
I had to jump in because you keyed on something. I was like, oh.
Dude, I mean, the sound, and then you walk around and you've got all these little shops and like, I mean, I don't know if they had it there, but they had a full size Millennium Falcon.
1-to-1 scale.
1-to-1 scale Millennium Falcon. Same thing for Kylo Ren's ship. you've got Chewbacca walking around. I saw Rey running around. Kylo Ren and a bunch of stormtroopers came out. They actually interacted with my eldest daughter, which was hilarious.
What happened?
She was, well, they came out and they were saying they're looking for, obviously, people who are against the First Order, and they're pulling people up and talking to them. And Kylo Ren's basically threatening everybody. And the two stormtroopers are hilarious. They're just like, please don't make him mad. they were great. They were really funny. And so like my daughter, of course, and she low key wants him to pick her, but is like also like very, she's like me. She's a bit of an introvert, but she kind of low key wants him to pick her anyway. So she's got her little Kylo Ren hood on that she got, and she's got her lightsaber on her hip, and she's kind of like flashing it around like, hey, I'm over here. Why don't you call me Mr. Kylo?
Hey, big boy.
And so, yeah, he calls her and interrogates her. And I told her, I'm like, you're going to chicken out. You're not going to say that you're against him. You're part of the resistance. And she did. She's like, oh, no, I'm with the First Order. Yeah, I'm totally with the First Order, Kylo. Whatever you want, Kylo. Yes. And it's just a great experience because it's incredibly immersive. And I would say in that part of the park, more than anywhere else, you had an interaction with the actors.
Yes.
That you're not getting in any other part of the park on that level. I mean, obviously the Disney characters come out everywhere, you take pictures, and then they weren't out like normal where they're walking around the park because of COVID. They're trying to keep them safe and not have little kids probably run up and give them hugs and stuff, which normally would happen.
Get away from me, kid.
So they have them in areas where they're close and you can get close, but you can't get right next to them. But even with that, like there would be stormtroopers walking up on the top, and if you said something to them, they'd start, talking smack back to you.
That's awesome.
And, the Kylo's interacting with the crowd, and Chewbacca was roaring at us and waving. And so it's just a very incredibly immersive experience. And for Star Wars fans, there's all kinds of stuff there to see and do. They've got, almost what I would say close to, movie accurate costumes you can buy. They've got the lightsaber experience where you can go and make the lightsabers as well. You've got a droid building experience. You got a number of different things that you can do there that just sort of pull you in even more and just keep drawing you in. The only thing I didn't get to do was the cantina because the line to get, or not really the line, it was the reservations to get in it were extremely long. But yeah, if you're a Star Wars fan, there's a lot to do, and the rides are incredible. And my 14-year-old was basically just turned to me like, the second time we went there the next day and was like, Dad, she's like, can we just stay in Batuu forever?
Right.
I'm just like, yeah, we can do that. I would have liked to. Now, granted, we needed to see other things, but it was funny. I found myself thinking how much more enjoyable, and I have a good job. I have a very good job, but there's part of me just like, just say, I'm just going to come work at Batuu. I'm just going to be in Star Wars for the rest of my life and just work in Batuu until I retire and just be in this world and just soak it up. And it's that kind of a place.
It really is. And were you going to say something, Steve?
I was going to ask. I got to know. And it's not really that big of a deal, honestly. But do they have little droids like rolling around everywhere? Like little Imperial, like little car looking thing?
I didn't see. Okay, for my experience,
you know which one I'm talking about, right?
I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, like the little battery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not see. Okay. Let me back it up. So they do have. I did not see this. They have a 1-to-1 scale R2D2 unit that does go around. If you want to give it a hug, you can. That there's someone who's controlling it somewhere, but like it will be rolling around. I'm glad I heard Nick talk about some of the engagements with some of the cast members that were dressed up as Star Wars characters, because we didn't have that in Florida. The first day that we were there,
it's too hot.
Well, no, actually it wasn't hot at all.
Really?
The whole week it was in the 60s.
Oh, nice.
It was fantastic. But like the first, I feel like we were kind of off because the first day was when we like really hit Galaxy's Edge. That was when it was raining. So I think a lot of like, the cast member engagement with the patrons kind of thing was put on the back burner.
Was it dampened?
Oh, I see what you did there, Nicky Poo.
Hey.
I like it. But we did see Rey briefly because we were in line for Rise of the Resistance, but we didn't want to forfeit our place in line. But we saw her from a distance. We're like, oh, sweet. And she was around one of the X-Wing fighters. But that was one of the things that we unfortunately did not get a chance to experience. We didn't get to see the stormtroopers walking around on patrol. We didn't see Kylo Ren. We didn't see Chewbacca. So that is something that we are definitely looking forward to the next time we go. We want to see all that go down, because I was reading online about how apparently there is some kind of fun little stage performance that they do where like Chewbacca starts fighting with the stormtroopers and you have explosions and stuff. And like they leverage part of the production design of the land itself to like turn it into like an impromptu fight or battle sequence, which is pretty sweet. So I'm glad for you, Nick, that your family was able to have that type of experience for sure. And there was one other thing that I wanted to talk about too before we move past it, so going back to like the idea of Batuu itself, what I think is super special, I think Nick, you would agree with me, is that the character of the land itself is, first of all, it's incredible because you feel like you have walked onto set or you've walked into the Star Wars world. But one of the things that I thought was incredible was how different the character of Galaxy's Edge changed when it became nighttime.
Yes. It was incredible because the way it lights up, it's very unique, has a very unique atmosphere because the light, I don't know how it was for you, but the light tones were very subdued. I mean, there was some neon here and there, your reds and blues that are typical for Star Wars, but it was a very subdued, low light. And yet there was this kind of glowing ambiance to all the buildings and the little cloves and stuff. And it just looked incredible. And again, you just wanted to be there. And we stayed there every night that we could. We stayed there till the park closed. And we had one of the nights that we did there, we stayed in Batuu specifically because Emma and I just wanted to keep riding the Millennium Falcon to try the different spots on the Millennium Falcon ride. And it was cool. Like the last time we went, there was like 5 minutes left and they're just like, you want to go again? We're like, yeah. They had all of the Disney actors that work on the ride were lined up outside the entrance to it. And they're like clapping us as we go in like, yeah,
that's
come
awesome.
on, come fight the resistance. There's like 15, 20 of them out there. And it was so cool because they just like you run through and it's like waving like, yes, I'm important. Yes,
waving to your subjects.
The First Order. Yeah, exactly. No, it was just a neat experience. And yeah, it's lit up. I sent you some great pictures of our experience at night as well. And it is a very different place. It is. It has this kind of like cozy,
charming,
it's almost
whimsical.
Like it becomes smaller. Yeah. And it's like the whole place comes a little bit smaller at night. Yeah. A little bit more cozy, I guess you might say.
Yeah, you definitely get like a bang for your buck in the visual department with that, because during the daytime it definitely has a very different vibe than the nighttime. The nighttime, all of a sudden it comes on, and one of the things I think is so cool about nighttime, all of the lights that they have incorporated into, whether it's on the ships or it's on the buildings or some of the like the weird like doodads or knickknacks that you find kind of strewn throughout the area, the lights look like they're Star Wars accurate. It sounds silly to hear myself say this, but like when you watch and you look at like all the lights, they look correct, like how they look in the films when like say Luke Skywalker's walking by or Obi-Wan Kenobi's walking by, and you know how they have the like those little arrangement of like little lit up buttons or something. You know, you don't even know what they go to.
But they're all over the place.
They are totally all over the place, and they look accurate. So,
yeah, you don't see bulbs or anything like that. No, nothing like that. And yet the place is lit up well.
Indeed. Okay, let us go from that and pivot over to Savi's lightsaber workshop, shall we?
Ooh. Yes, indeed.
So this was one of the many attractions within the space where it really... the thoughtfulness behind what they were doing with this, you could tell they wanted to make it a special experience. They involved this storytelling component in the sense that because it's like this kind of organic ecosystem that is Galaxy's Edge, they wanted to give kind of like this secret meeting of sorts where you could build your own lightsaber, but make sure you don't tell the First Order about it or the Galactic Empire or whoever. Like this needs to be something that like you keep on the down low, very hush hush, which I love because it wasn't like you would walk into, like, say, for instance, and again, I'm not being disparaging toward Lego or anything like close to that. But, like, you know, you go to a mall and, like, you know, Lego's the first thing that comes to mind where, like, you can walk into their store and you can put together something because they have, like, a bunch of spare pieces and parts, and you can do something. And, you know, you got the employees like, oh, yeah, that'll be like $34.95 or whatever. And that works for the mall experience. But in this case, it was very different where, like, it was special. Like you sat down and you got to pick between 4 main themes of your lightsaber. And based off of that, they had multiple parts that you could choose within that class of lightsaber. And it was just the neatest experience where you had a personal assistant that kind of went through the stuff. They also had some exposition that they were, like, you know, putting out there as well as you were going through it. And it became this wonderful, memorable moment where, as you're putting it together, there was almost, I'm trying to think of, like, the right word, Nick, maybe you can help me out on this, but it was almost like a procession or some kind of, like, pomp and circumstance, if you will, where, like, once you had the lightsaber hilt completed, the personal assistant would then take it and then put it into, like, the table. They have, like, this very elongated circular table, and you would turn on, like, you wouldn't pick up the hilt, but you would just turn it on while it was connected to the table, and you would see through this frosted glass the blade all of a sudden turn on in its color without seeing the blade. And everybody would do it simultaneously. So you saw all of this kaleidoscope of color come in, and then, whoops, it had this door, this, like, swiveling circular, like, door that would open, like just kind of one of those futuristic kind of things. And it was then that you could pick up the lightsaber out, and everybody was just looking at it for the very first time. I just thought it was brilliant. What'd you think, Nick?
Absolutely. It was kind of almost like a rite of passage.
Yes, totally.
You know, it's how I would look at it. And, like, it was so cool because, like, I guess normally when parks fully running normal, the First Order stormtroopers will come through there looking for Jedi sympathists and for Resistance sympathists and actually interrogate you while you're waiting to go into Savi's.
Wow.
Like, hey, are you seeing any people, any Jedi around here? Blah, blah, blah. You need to let us know if you do, that kind of thing. And so I look forward to going back and seeing when that kind of experience can happen. But yeah, no, you go into this place and yeah, basically they're like, you know, they're disguised as junk collectors, but what they're really doing is collecting different bits of various parts from around the galaxy to create these hilts, to basically outfit the future Jedi and in some cases the Sith, of the world. And yeah, you go in and it was so cool because originally we just were going to do myself and my 2 daughters because my wife wasn't really sure if she wanted to because it's not cheap. And, but then she, like, kind of like we got there and the people out there talking to you and everything. It's like, again, the Disney employees are so good at what they do and they're very into it. They're very positive. They're very immersed. And so she's looking and watching us do it and our excitement's building. And she's kind of like, do you have room for one more? And then granted, you have to reserve to do this. Like, this is not something you can typically just walk up and be like, yeah, can I get in here and make a lightsaber?
And it's hard, by the way, to make those reservations. Like, we weren't sure if we were going to be able to get myself in. Like, Leslie was, like, hardcore trying to get us in it, and then she was able to score it for us. Well, probably like 2 weeks out from our trip. Anyway, go ahead, Nick. Like a bribe.
Yeah, no, exactly. And we had done ours. The initial reservation was the 3 of us. She was just like, can you fit in one more? And they're like, we have one opening. So my wife did it.
Dude.
So all 4 of us built this. We're all 4 sitting there next to each other. And yeah, there's this whole pomp and circumstance that happens with it where they're talking about, you know, what the Force is and the history of lightsabers and the history of colors and who has wielded the various colors, you know, whether it's Qui-Gon Jinn with green and Yoda and Luke Skywalker or the purple blade with Mace Windu. And they even talk about some of the Sith and Anakin Skywalker with the red. And then you put these things together. Yeah, and you're right. And that little door just like opens up and you pull it out and you hold it up. And the whole room, and you're right, it's a rainbow. Just kaleidoscope of colors with everybody with their different lightsabers.
You get chills at that moment.
And then Yoda kicks in. The whole room goes green. And then Yoda comes in and starts talking about the Force. And for someone who loves Star Wars, if you're a casual fan, maybe it wouldn't have as big of an impact. But if you're somebody who grew up on Star Wars and loves the Force and the universe that George Lucas created, you're going to be absolutely blown away by it. And it's an experience you need to have. You can go order a lightsaber online. You can probably get, actually, I can attest to this, you can get better lightsabers if you want to do combat lightsabers online. But you can't get this experience. Right. This is a unique, exclusive to the Disneyland park experience that if you're a Star Wars fan and you love the Force, you got to do it. You got to do it.
You really do. And, you know, what was interesting was that my original plan was just to go in by myself because I didn't think that Vivian would be interested at all. And when we got to the park, I'm very happy to say that after being exposed to Galaxy's Edge, my daughter is now supercharged on Star Wars, which is fantastic. But
you're raising her right.
And what was interesting was the day that I was scheduled to do the lightsaber thing, my daughter then comes up and asks if she can be a part of it. And the cool thing about this experience is that you're allowed to bring one person with you and they can watch. Like there's one person who's like the dedicated lightsaber builder, right? But you can also have someone who just witnesses it, who partakes in what's going on. So I had her come in as my cute little Padawan learner, and everybody who was working there keyed on her. Cause I mean, she's 7. She's like the only little 7-year-old that's in there. And she's just, you know, all big eyed looking around like, what is this? You know? And what was really special, I'll never forget this, is she helped me to build my lightsaber. And it was the coolest thing because when it came to the kyber crystals, I was going back and forth in my mind about because I wanted either blue or green. I was like, I don't know if I want blue or green. Well, they come out and they have this really neat cylindrical contraption that houses the kyber crystals that you pick. And so I turned to her when they were asking me which one I would like. And I asked her, like, which one did you think I should get? And she said blue. And I was like, all right, we're going to do blue. And the really neat aspect about these kyber crystals is that they actually do affect the color of your lightsaber. So I could totally dismantle the lightsaber that I put together, take out the kyber crystal and put in like a green one. It will change the blade to green.
Nice.
So it's
yes, it will. I have several. I have several crystals.
And see, that was one of the things that, like, unfortunately, I didn't know this, but like when you're done with the experience, you can actually go back to like the front area of where this takes place, and you can purchase like multiple kyber crystals, or like if you wanted to buy like extra parts for your lightsaber, or even like entire kits from the other 3 themes that you didn't choose. You can buy all kinds of stuff there, but I just didn't know that. So unfortunately I wasn't able to do that. However,
I did.
I know Nick got the hookup for sure.
I would like an orange lightsaber. Do they have an orange?
No, Steve, they don't have an orange.
They have yellow.
Do they have yellow?
They have yellow. I have yellow.
Orange one.
You know what? They didn't say that they had yellow, because yellow would have been an interesting color for me to consider as well. They were saying they only had blue, green, purple, and red.
When you go into the experience, those are the only colors they have. But if you go into the little shop that's around the corner, another little shop, you can get white, you can get yellow, and you can actually, if you get lucky, if you're getting a red crystal, you can occasionally get a black kyber crystal that actually turns your blade red. But it's a special. I think they only put out like 20 of them a day, and it's totally random. But you could buy a red crystal and get this black kyber crystal that turns your lightsaber red too. And the kyber crystals actually, Emma got the Jedi holocron. You can take the kyber crystals and you put them in the holocron, and then it has messages.
Oh, wow.
From different people. So like we put in my green one, and Qui-Gon would talk to you, another one Yoda would talk. And I guess it's not necessarily always the same thing, because the crystals are all a little bit different. So you could have 2 green crystals, but get 2 different messages in the holocron.
That is so cool.
Yeah, so we've been sticking all of them in our holocron to see what they have to say, and it's pretty sweet. You can even put the red one in the Jedi one, and Yoda comes on and warns you about going and being swayed by the dark side of the Force.
Do not go down this path to evil lies it, yes?
Very nice.
That kind of thing. So yeah.
See, I had no idea like that. I'm so glad that you said that, Nick, because I had no idea. First of all, there was a yellow crystal, or the fact that I heard something about, what is it pronounced holocron? Is that what you said?
Yeah, the Jedi holocron.
See, I don't even know where to pick that up. So
same store.
Are you talking about the antiquities store?
Yes, it's the one where they sell the movie replica blades. They sell the crystals in there too.
Okay, see,
That's where you sell them.
that's one of the things that for us, because we were very much in that whole like, must ride as many rides as possible mode because Vivian had never been to the parks at all. So that was like our focus was like, not only were we at Galaxy's Edge, but we were going everywhere. We were like trying to ride every single ride we possibly could, which diminished the amount of time I had in Galaxy's Edge, which again is not like a death sentence because it just means that the next time I go, there's all this other stuff I get to experience on the second time through. Anyway, just to go back really quick about my daughter. So like there were other little parts as well on the lightsaber that, I would reach for one particular item and her little hand would like come out and point at the other one instead. And so I was like, oh, you want me? Okay. So I'll take that one and put it on. And she has good taste. I must say.
She made a fine saber. I've seen it.
She has indeed. In fact, I think it's worth noting that I have it here on the table. If I can successfully reach for it.
Use the force. Pull it to you.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I do think it is worth noting that Nicholas and I have a very similar looking lightsaber, but I'm going to see if I can try and like not hit anything with the blade. There goes the studio lights.
There goes the lights.
But if you flip it on, you can hear it, and it's I almost hit a light just then. How about that? Anyway, it's a little difficult to see right now because of all of our studio lights, but we went with the blue color.
Put it up against my black of my shirt. I'm sure you'll be able to see it that way.
Maybe here. Gotta be careful. I don't want to cut you, Steve. Hold on. You can kind of see it like that.
Not really.
Not really. No, it's too bright in here. But if you want to see like a close up really quick, though, I mean, if you want to get the detail, I gotta be careful. I don't want to send your eyebrows, Steve. I don't want to send your eyebrows.
I'll do enough of that on my own.
I'm trying to get. Oh my goodness. Oh. So yes, very, very cool indeed. I feel like I'm like making a fool of myself.
I'm gonna do this in the bathroom in front of the mirror all night long.
Yeah, exactly. Nick, would you be so kind as to hold up your lightsaber?
Is your Schwartz
Or
bigger,
two.
Russ, or it is Nick's?
Let's see if I can get mine through without knocking my microphone.
Yeah, see,
over.
it's a lot harder. So you can see great minds think alike.
There's some similarities, but yet there's also a lot of differences, which is the really cool thing about building the lightsabers. My daughters both chose the elemental nature set. Their lightsabers don't look anything alike. They have a motif that's similar, but even though they were in the same group, they made something that looks very different. And you kind of see that same thing with the two of us. I chose purple. It doesn't show up on screen very well, but I'll turn it on.
You get an idea. You can see it.
Yeah, you can make some sounds here.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And of course, the turn off.
Yes.
So I played around with this. I bought extra scrap parts so I can change quite a few things on mine. And then I also bought the extra kyber crystals so I can change the colors. So I've got reds. I can do a Sith thing. I bought a whole outfit. I'm a big dork. This is why I didn't get anything for Christmas, guys, because I spend it all at Star Wars in Batuu.
Well, you're not wrong
Galaxy's
for
Edge.
doing that at all. I think that was money well spent. Steve, what were you going to say?
How do you get these things on the plane like home undamaged?
Okay, so check.
That's a great question.
Thanks, Nick.
It is a very good question. First of all, what's really, really cool is that Disney has already worked with TSA to be able to not have them harass you when
This
you
is
bring
not
this.
an actual weapon, okay?
It's just like, I swear I got this at Disney. It's a lightsaber. It's awesome. You want to try it?
Not gonna cut anybody.
Oh, hey, come over here for a minute. Come over here. They've got something in their bag here. It looks like it's for, clubbing a baby seal.
Yeah.
Can we let them bring that on plane? No, that doesn't happen. Because, you're right. The TSA has already been alerted, and they're so used to seeing them now, they don't even, bat an eye at them. They're just like,
Especially when it comes to those airports that are right next to Disneyland, Disney World. I mean, they must see thousands of those a week.
You know what would be kind of cool, though, is if TSA was in on it And so if you bought like little blasters or something, you're like, or your lightsabers, like if TSA kind of did give you a hard time, you can't bring this on the plane, but we'll let you. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Exactly. They just need to create a Star Wars airline service. Yeah. That would be.
Make it look like the Millennium
Or
Falcon.
have the TSA just be like not resistance, but like stormtroopers just like, I just want to go home. I just want to go on the plane. You know, and they gotta like.
Suddenly, this whole
This is the lightsaber
TSA
you're
thing is
looking
starting
for.
to make a lot of sense.
Man.
No probes. No anal probes, please.
Oh gosh. Jeez.
So pivoting from that, I just want to talk really briefly. I know Nick hadn't gone into the Cantina, Oga's Cantina. Mm-hmm. We were able to make reservations for that, which is really funny because I literally spent about 5 minutes in there because it was butted up against my reservation for the lightsaber building. So I ran in there with the rest of my family just to make sure we got a booth, and we did. Fantastic ambiance in the Cantina. The place is legit. They have all kinds of like little Easter eggs from various Star Wars films, that sort of thing. If you take the time to look around, they have the droid from the original Star Tours ride that is no longer a part of Star Tours, unfortunately, but he's the DJ of the Cantina. So they've got like all this like actually really good music playing through the Cantina, and he's up there like, you know, DJing his thing or whatever else. And I was able to have one drink, and all my friends who have been to the Galaxy's Edge experience, especially more specifically the Cantina, say that the Fuzzy Tauntaun is one of the best drinks. So that is what I ordered. And let me tell you, that is a delicious drink. That drink tastes unique, and it made my lips numb. There's a
Fascinating.
there is an intentional side effect to the Fuzzy Tauntaun that like makes your mouth temporarily numb.
I'm sure it sounds healthy.
I had the green milk.
You did.
I had the green milk that Luke drinks.
How was that? I didn't have that.
Milky.
It was good. It was really good. It was kind of a no, it wasn't moldy. It was sweet. It was. I'm trying to place them. It was a fruity flavor.
I've heard that they put like some kind of tequila or something in that.
The one that I had was non-alcoholic. It was, you could get it outside because I didn't get to go into the Cantina. The reservations were just too booked. And so that's the thing I need to do the next time I go back is go into the Cantina. But unfortunately that part I did miss, but they had a little booth outside and I got this cool little jug that looked like the jug that Luke was carrying around.
Yeah.
And was milking that weird animal. Yeah. And I went ahead and got the green milk because I wanted to be, you know, movie authentic, and it was quite tasty, I gotta say. And the jug is pretty cool. Still got that as well. And of course, we didn't really say much about the rides.
Oh, we're getting to that. Don't you worry.
We got to talk about that. I have to say, don't you dare end this podcast without talking about them rides now.
Yeah,
Russ.
no, we're going to get to the rides in just a moment. But no, I will say though that I thought of you and I thought of you, Nick, in terms of how fun would it be for us to be able to make reservations at the Cantina, because I looked at the drink menu. They have a lot of drinks. Not only that, the drinks themselves, they look like alien concoctions. Like there's this one, I can't remember what it's called, but it's literally like, it's like this very narrow, tall glass. It has kind of a yellowy green tinge to it. It has dry ice coming out of the top. And then it has these little like balls inside. Oh, it's almost like one of those Asian teas, you know, where it has the balls at the bottom.
Boba tea.
That's it. They have some way within this particular drink where those balls, they bounce like crazy all inside the glass without shooting out.
Oh, that's wild.
It's totally cool looking. It's very alien, but I mean, that's just one. I mean, they have so many other drinks that like from a visual presentation standpoint, it's legit. Like it's fun. And not only that, they have a comprehensive list of non-alcoholic drinks that you can order that also have their own unique look and just experience overall, as well as the alcoholic side. So like we would literally be able to sit in there for hours and just try all the different, try the different drinks.
Keep it out. Just put it on my
I'm wandering out.
Anyway, what we can do though, I just had to say that really quick just because
kicked out of the cantina by Disney.
You walk up to Kylo Ren. I got a lightsaber duel.
I hate your costume. You're always my worst villain.
Where's Darth Vader?
I was better than you.
You're like Vader's codpiece. Nah.
Well,
Yeah.
having said all that, let's get into some rides, shall we? I do think it is worth noting that Smuggler's Run was the very first Star Wars ride. I mean, technically, I've been on Star Tours the last time I was at Disneyland. But in terms of going to Galaxy's Edge, the first ride that we went on when we arrived was Smuggler's Run. Now, this was a kind of make it or break it point because both my wife and I were excited and also a little apprehensive about our daughter being exposed to Disney World because it's so much going on. And Star Wars especially is like, I mean, it can be intense for a 7-year-old. And the very first ride that she encountered and experienced was Smuggler's Run out of all the rides in Disney World. And I'm thinking, oh, please, I hope you love this ride. Please, because I mean, you know how kids are. It's like they have like a bad experience and then they don't want to do any other rides after that. So you're just like, okay. I am happy and relieved to report that Smuggler's Run is my daughter's favorite ride in the entire Disney World park. In fact, she wanted to ride it a second time, and she was the pilot. So to give you an idea of like this is a motion simulation ride. It's not like you just sit there and you're like, oh, okay. I mean, it'll jerk you around and bump you, and it's interactive in terms of like when you tell the ship to go left, you go left. If you go up, you go up. You go down, you go down. So on and so forth.
Everyone's barfing at the end. That was fun, Dad. Yeah, it was great.
I'm so glad we survived the Kessel.
Parts. Yeah.
Anyway, it was
Too many parsecs.
it was such a triumph in terms of the technology behind the ride, because Star Tours itself, I feel it has really kept up all these years. I mean, that ride debuted, I think, in 1987. I mean, it was a while ago.
Yeah. This was a
It
while
is
ago.
still, though, like a ride that is really, really fun to do. So I was curious about Smuggler's Run because, okay, how are they going to build off that experience? And I know you've been on Star Tours back the last time you were at Disneyland.
Yeah.
So you have an idea of like how all that stuff
It's like
works.
Days of Thunder and Six Flags.
Very much.
Yes.
Very much so.
Yes, indeed.
So, Nick, can you please describe for us what your experience was like on Smuggler's Run?
Well, it was fantastic. That was the ride that my daughter and I kept going on, and where they had all the Disney actors out applauding us at the end of the night, because it was great. Because at the end of the night, I mean, again, going back to Batu at night, it's very crowded the day. The later on in the night you get, as people start to thin out, especially those with younger kids start to go home, it became more personal. And so that was my daughter's favorite.
Oh,
ride.
right on.
Emma's favorite ride there was Smuggler's Run, and we went on it four or five times, I think,
Nice.
over the course of the time we were there. Yes. And we got to try, I got to try every position but gunner. I never got a chance to do gunner, just the way it worked out, but I got to be pilot and I got to be
How
an
was
engineer.
the engineer
And-
experience?
The engineer experience you would think would be, oh, you're just in the back. It's kind of crummy, but it's actually really fun because it's super interactive, and like your score is based on how quickly you respond to the flashing buttons, because you're hitting all the buttons. And that was actually Emma's favorite position. She likes hitting the buttons. She's like, I want to push all the buttons. Like,
Yeah.
okay. So yeah. And it's like, they go on flashing and you got to pop them so you can get the shields back up, or you can fire the harpoon and do that kind of thing. And, it's a very interactive, I would say it's probably the most interactive position in the ride. You're constantly doing something. There's always a button flashing. There might be a second or two. I will say, though, that I highly recommend that everybody try and ride it twice if you've only been in the engineer, because you are so busy, you miss a lot of what's going on, because it's hard to watch what's happening and pay attention to your buttons at the same time. So I was glad that I was able to be a pilot and be up in front and have fun doing that as well, and actually experience the actual flying of the Millennium Falcon. But I'm not sure how it was for you. Did you walk into like a little interior room and there was a guy up there talking to you about the run, and Chewie comes flying in and he basically asks Chewie if they can take the Millennium Falcon? Did that happen for you guys?
I want to say yes. At least the first time. The second time, I don't recall that happening, but I do remember being in that room where like you're kind of getting the what you call it, the briefing, right, of like what's going on, and then it gets interrupted, and so then all of a sudden we did that. It's interesting how we didn't do it the second time though, but we did it the first time.
They must have different entrances because we had it every time. You'd see, and the animatronics on that guy was fantastic. For a little bit, I wasn't sure when I walked in if it was an actual live actor or if it was an animatronic. I had to watch it for a little bit, and I was like, no, it's an animatronic, but it's really well done. And so that was really impressive. And yeah, you're kind of walking through the corridors and they look like the interior of the Millennium Falcon, the color motif, the lights, everything. And so it's just a really cool experience. And you get into the the cabin, and it looks like the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon.
It really does.
It's just great. And the ride is incredible. Yeah, you get moved around. Actually, my wife kind of tweaked her back the last time we rode it. Yeah, because she was kind of like turned doing something. I think she was doing Gunner. And we got jostled. She was like, oh, my back! Because we're old people. And so we had to wheel her off in a, cart. Not really.
I'm totally getting a visual of the three of us doing Smuggler's Run. Can you imagine how much fun we'd have?
That'd be awesome.
It's incredible. It's cool because it's an interactive ride, right? Like you're doing stuff on the ride. You're not just sitting there. Who doesn't want that?
That's cool. Yeah.
And by interactive, I don't mean, throwing up. I mean, that's a type of interaction. That's not the interaction I'm talking about.
Well, and you touch upon something with that too, Nick, in terms of the overall Galaxy's Edge experience, which is, when you think of like all of the other lands that Disney has created, it's much more of a passive experience where you go and you sit down and you kind of process what's going on, whether it's a ride or you're watching like a stage show or something like that. This is the first time where, if you think about passive experience versus more of a interactive experience or proactive experience, this is very decidedly like they want the patrons to actually get involved, to participate in everything that's going on around them. They have really made a lot of effort to make this atmosphere immersive, moody experience that compels you almost to like want to see what's behind that corner. Oh, what's the significance of this here or whatever. And to have even like the way that the cast members engage you as patrons and whatnot, I feel is like it's a new type of approach that Disney has really. I mean, and I wanted to kind of call that out because I know that Nick, you've said that a number of times already, and you're totally right. So
yes.
Anyway, I know we can keep talking about Smuggler's Run, but now let us pivot over to Rise of the Resistance. Now, Rise of the Resistance is the newest attraction within Galaxy's Edge. It debuted, I want to say, in 2020. Is that correct, Nick?
I believe you're right. I think it was like later 2020.
Yeah, so it came out last year. And honestly, because the park closed for the majority of the year, like there really hasn't been very many people who normally would actually go on this ride had COVID not been a thing. They actually would have lots of crowds of people. So I think there's a significant amount of folks who have not yet experienced it. I was blown away at the level of, once again, the feeling of stepping into the world of Star Wars. I got to tell you, at one point, so they kind of start you out. You see like, well, actually, you know what? Let's be careful not to give spoilers on this particular ride because it's still really new.
I'm sure I'll forget, Russ.
Well, I'm thinking of our listeners and viewers out there, but
the listeners, Steve.
What I will say from a super high level spoiler free perspective is this ride is designed in such a way where some of the time you're not actually riding something. You are actually going from point A to point B and kind of like you're walking over here or walking over there. It's like a journey. And then there are other times where you actually get into something and you ride it. So it becomes this very like, whoa, where are we going now? Oh, we're going here. Oh, okay. And there's a particular moment where we were walking towards something. I'll just say that. I'm totally serious when I say this. I started to get goosebumps, like goosebumps formed all over my arms and neck. And I'm not just saying like it formed. I mean, they formed so hard. Like I turned to my wife and I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm like totally geeking out right now. And like, it was weird. And she looked and she could see the goosebumps on my arm. She starts cracking up and laughing and telling her parents who came with us too. Like, she's like, oh my gosh, Russ has like crazy goosebumps right now. And I've never felt goosebumps that hardened before. It's the funniest thing to describe, but I mean, it was literally like I was totally caught up in the moment. I was totally immersed in what the journey was with regards to Rise of the Resistance, and my body was physically reacting to how authentic the experience was. From a giddy, like deep down somewhere in my cerebellum, my 10-year-old was like gleefully just like doing the happy dance. And I've never had goosebumps that have felt it's the only way I can describe it is like they extruded themselves to a point where it was almost kind of like hurting. It was like I was kind of like stiff. It was the coolest thing. But anyway, I'll stop there and hand over to Nick. Nick, what was your experience on Rise of the Resistance?
I think you nailed it in a word just a second ago. Experience. It is an experience. It's not just a ride. It literally, yeah, you go from one thing and you have this interaction and then you're getting into this other thing that takes you somewhere else, but then something happens and then part of it's ride, part of it's just interactive experience. Again, you've got the amazing Disney employees, the Disney actors being a part of the ride as well, interacting with you in a very, very upfront way,
yes.
Right? It is the most immersive ride that I have ever been on in my life. There is one point when you come into a hangar, and I'll just put it at that. You come in a hangar, and the sheer scale of the things inside that hangar, my mouth was just like, close that back up here. I about,
it was camera ready, wasn't it?
Camera ready, and to scale. To scale. So, I mean, if you can imagine things in Star Wars between the various spaceships and various other things that exist in that universe, we're talking huge things to scale. I don't want to go beyond that because I think it's important because it is such a immersive experience. We really shouldn't tell you about it too much. You need to see it. You need to experience it for yourself. And me telling you anything or Russ telling you anything would cheapen that. But let me just say that, yeah, it is in fact everything it's cracked up to be and more. And kind of, I would say it like everything in Batuu, right? Everything in Batuu in Galaxy's Edge there, that's the name of the port is Batuu. I don't think we mentioned that that's what they actually called it and why. That's the port of Galaxy's Edge is Batuu. Everything there is about immersion. And it seems like each little thing you do and go from is more immersive, and it continues when you get into these rides. You've got a ride in Smuggler's Run that's super interactive where you actually have a lot of control over what's happening. And then you've got Rise of the Resistance, which is like living through a movie. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. It's like living through a little short Star Wars film. And yeah, the sheer scale of the things that they were doing in there, I was the same as you. I just was, it's like I wish I could have just stopped. I think is what I would say. I wish I could have just stopped and slowed down time to have more moments, more time to take it all in, everything I was seeing. I was trying to snap photos and do all this stuff while I was in there because I was like, oh my gosh, look at this. Oh my gosh, look at that. Click, click, click. Trying to get pictures. And of course, you're also trying not to be rude for the other patrons on the ride. But yeah, it's just an incredible experience, and it's a ride that's really unlike anything that you probably have experienced before.
It's so true, and the ride is, I can say without hesitation, it's a new benchmark in terms of like the Imagineering and the technology behind it. I was actually finding out today that 5 million lines of code operate that one ride, and
it's crazy. Yeah, there's these things you get in, and I'll just say this: there's these things you get in, and they move around.
Yeah,
they're not
no
on rails
on the parts that you ride.
They're not on rails, and they're going all
Yeah.
over the dang place. And you're just like, how in the heck is it doing this?
Not to mention the fact that there are multiple versions of this thing that you're in where like you will occasionally see other folks and it doesn't hit or run into them or what. I mean, it's free roaming. And on top of that too, I heard about how depending on which line because there's a certain point where like, I'm going to be spoiler free here. You are lined up.
Of course, yeah.
At a certain point, but there are multiple lines, and based on the line you get into, you will actually take a slightly different journey when you take on the ride portion itself. So, like, certain perspectives or vantage points that I experienced, some other folks in a different line would have a different journey entirely. So more...
We got on it twice, so I got to experience.
Oh, did you really?
Different perspectives.
Yeah, that is super cool. Anyway, we're running low on time here. I've been having a blast talking about this. There was so much more to talk about. I had done some digging online, and I found a great article by Insider that lists literally 21 things that you can do at Galaxy's Edge. I had no idea there was that much. And even as I talk to you, Nick, and I just do some research on my own time, I am discovering, wow, like there is a significant amount of stuff that I didn't know existed or that maybe I kind of did but didn't have time for, such as like there's like one experience where you can build your own droid. You can choose between like a BB-8 or an R2-D2. And not only that, like when you build it, like it actually interacts with other droids that have been built within the park. So you'll be walking around the park, and if you pass by someone else who has one of those droids, they start talking to each other and like having reactions at random. Like, I mean, just that alone, you're just like, oh my gosh, like I've got to try that. I've got to see what that's about. But anyway, I figure I would open the floor briefly here for you, Steve, because I know Nick and I have been just running amok with our experiences with this. Do you have any questions as someone who has not yet been to Galaxy's Edge?
Well, it all kind of boils down to the experience because, I mean, you guys are trying to paint a picture.
Yes.
But a picture mental of what I am thinking versus actually being there is two completely different things.
Sure.
So I don't have really any questions because it's one thing just to hear you talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's another thing to actually be there and see it and hear it and smell it, taste it.
You know what
I'm saying?
There are smells as well, FYI. Yes.
Oh, man.
I'll ask you a question then, Steve. Does it interest you? Are you excited to someday be able to go and experience Galaxy's Edge for yourself?
Just got to get there, Russ.
Oh,
It all takes is just money, Russ.
we'll find a way. Because this man needs to experience that which Nick and I have seen and loved. Indeed.
Poetic.
Nick, do you
Yes,
have
you
any
do.
concluding thoughts
You do.
before we sign off?
Yeah, I would just say if you're plain and simple, if you're a Star Wars fan, it's a must do. Pick a park. Doesn't matter which side you go to, you're going to have a fantastic experience. Whether you go to the California and go to Disneyland, or if you go to Florida and go to Disney World, it's absolutely one of those things. If you're a big fan of that universe, you need to go and you need to experience it. You will not be disappointed. I will say that the other things in the other parts of the park are also fantastic as well. Disney is always a great experience. I really enjoyed the Avengers section of California Adventure as well. So that's pretty cool, but nothing is quite on the level from immersion, I think, with Galaxy's Edge. It's just its own special kind of beast, and it's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, I totally agree. We actually didn't even have the option to check out the Avengers. I think that is a California only thing at this time. I'm sure they're planning on releasing kind of like or opening a Disney World version of that, but that was something I have yet to experience myself. But yeah, I am thoroughly impressed about just what they have managed to achieve with this part of the park. it is certainly a love letter to Star Wars fans. It's incredible to me that I, as a kid from the 80s who grew up on the original trilogy and just ate up all of the splendor that is Star Wars, can now in my 40s be able to take my family to a place where it is very much as if I just stepped off the monorail and into the world of Star Wars. And I'm for one, am very much looking forward to making multiple trips back. I can't recommend it enough. And it makes me really excited for the future, honestly, of that particular area. Like, what other future rides or experiences do they have planned long term? If you're to look out, like, say, 5 years, 10 years, what's interesting is that since Galaxy's Edge opened, it seems like they're doling out one new attraction per year. So it makes me wonder, how many do they have lined up in the wings? I know that I think the next thing they're going to be doing is some sort of hotel experience that's going to debut, I think, this coming March, like in 2022, where you stay at this Star Wars type of hotel that's designed around the idea of being like some sort of intergalactic cruiser that like goes through the galaxies. You can spend 2 nights on this thing, and apparently it's like this. It takes basically like what we were describing in a high level spoiler-free version of Rise of the Resistance and turns it into like a 2-day affair. Apparently it's very, very expensive though. And I think they're still trying to work out like how all that stuff's going to work out. But that aside, it does make me wonder very excitedly about, okay, what else are they going to bring in? I mean, Mandalorian. Can we get a Mandalorian ride? Yes, please.
Is there a Mandalorian walking around?
No.
No Mandalorian ship?
And see, that's the thing that I think is it's so ripe for expansion. Where like they have such like the inklings of like, you know, they have just a few sprinkled characters so far. They could totally like bring out additional characters and flesh it out. Honestly, I think it's kind of like a budget limit. It's like they spent like all this money. I mean, who knows how many millions of dollars they spent building Galaxy's Edge and these rides. I think they need to like recoup some of their investment, but I'm sure they will. And then they'll be able to kind of move forward with other plans. I mean, they've got some kind of like crazy list of things they would love to achieve, but that's for another time. I want to thank Nick for joining us again. You, sir, are always welcome on the show. Can't wait for you to come back. And that wraps up this episode of Joygasm. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you enjoyed this episode, we invite you to check out patreon.com/Joygasm, where you can enjoy exclusive perks and early access to the show. Not to mention, it continues helping us financially doing the show. Also, make sure you push that subscribe button and click on that notification bell. That way you will not miss a single episode of Joygasm. It drops once a week, every week. And while you're at it, do a search on your favorite social media platform of choice. Just do a search for @Joygasm TV. We're on just about all of them. And last but not least, do a search for Joygasm TV on Twitch to see us stream our gaming adventures live every Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. We're going to wish you all a very happy new year, and we can't wait to see you bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in 2022 next week.